afternoon, everyone. I, Dr. Swati Jha, on behalf of IMM Business School, extends a hearty welcome to you all in the second session of IMM Leadership Summit 2021. Our next panelist today is Ms. Madhura Mukherjee. She is a learning and development specialist at Genpact. Ms. Madhura is a certified NLP practitioner from American Board of NLP. She has 14 years of extensive experience in various spheres of learning and development, program management, and branding and communication in global sectors. She has worked with large corporate houses like Hero Corporate Services, Reliance Adak Group, Emirates Airlines, and Wipro Limited. In her current role with Genpact, she manages a gamut of learning inventions and communications for the leadership. Her philosophy is to invest in future, and hence she spends a lot of her time mentoring and coaching students and professionals seeking guidance. Apart from her work, her passion ranging from writing to music keeps her occupied. She has been a part of various advertising campaigns and animation projects where she has lent her voice. I now request Mr. Pradyuman to please welcome Ms. Mukherjee on behalf of the IMM Group.
May I request you, Madhura ma'am, to share your thoughts, please?
Okay, so a very good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for having me with all of you. And I'm happy to say that I almost felt like you read my mind, and Bhavna almost said most of the things that I wanted to say. So it's like, I can now completely move on without any beating around the bush, right? So I'll start from where she left off. She talked about basically, welcome the able and don't label, right? And that's exactly what inclusion is, right? So again, Anuricha set the context very rightly. She said that it all began when, there were no washrooms for women. And now we are at the stage where there are no washrooms for the third gender or anybody who does not identify with the male and female gender. So basically, we are back to square one. And that's exactly why diversity being only numbers is not going to help. And that's actually what is happening currently. While I agree that numbers speak, but numbers can also take you away from the real goal. So what I'm basically advocating is let's flip the approach. Let's look at inclusion. Let's create that culture of inclusion, which is basically behavior that we are talking about, which is very personal, which is something that is intangible. And that is also something that can be learned and, you can do something about, right? So first, let's co-create that culture of acceptance. Let's start asking ourselves about the unconscious bias we have. And then that will automatically take care of diversity is what I believe. Right. So another example that Beg sir said in the beginning that, during pandemic, it was a big problem, more of a problem for women because women had to do housework, etc., and their real work. My question is, where did that come from? From perceptions, right? These perceptions that we've built through centuries that women are supposed to do blah, 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 blah. So the point remains that that is not at all what we will be talking about. We should be talking about in an inclusive, era, we will be talking about the ability of each family member and what all can each one do to make a difference or, to take the household forward. So I think that the first thing we need to start challenging are the biases, the perceptions that have come through generations. And India having been, a culture itself of diversity I don't think was ever the issue. We've always had diversity, not necessarily in gender numbers. It could be in other places like, caste, etc. Right? I don't want to get into all those political things because that will become very controversial. But point I'm trying to make is that diversity is definitely an issue, but I think inclusion is the bigger issue. So that's exactly what is the challenge today. So while every company, my company, I'll say I'm from Genpact, and we're already at a 42% gender balance, which is a huge number for the corporate world. And our goal was to reach 44% by, I think, end of next year. And I think we'll be touching that beginning of this year. But then, is that solving the problem? No. What is inclusion is what we are doing at Genpact, which is we are pushing women to bigger roles, to roles where we feel that she could be befitting and could be making a difference in the boardroom. So I think those are the things that we should be doing to make sure that inclusiveness is really happening. So I'll cut this story short because again the context has been set very well. Let's look at some of those inspirations. So this is still a very experimental thing. Companies are constantly learning, relearning, unlearning. They're adopting new strategies. Something's not working, let's redo it. We're still at that stage. So what are some of these very popular campaigns which actually work, campaigns or drives you may call it, that really worked? And those are some of the benchmarks that the industry is now taking inspiration from. So the first one was done by the European Roundtable of Industrialists called Embrace Difference, which in today's age became hashtag Embrace Difference, right? So this was started by them to basically bring in gender balance, but then it went beyond that. It started talking about, other issues like, is there unconscious bias? How are we, welcoming all sexual orientation or disability, etc. So it started covering a wider coverage. And though lots of European companies took it as Embrace Difference and they were running programs, the biggest change that I witnessed, or I'm sure all of you also witnessed, would be this hashtag started doing the rounds in the very recent times on Instagram, for example. And suddenly you had the young generation who are not even in the corporate world, they were talking about embracing difference because LGBTQ became a big topic that people were talking about. All lives matter, Black lives matter. You must have heard about all these, right? So these are all talking about pushing the inclusion curve. Next one was Choose to Challenge. Something again which was adopted by Volvo 10 years back. They started this Choose to Challenge campaign where basically they were trying to balance the organization again. They were trying to drive, diversity, not because it's fair and the right thing to do, but it was essential for business. They saw extreme positive impact on their productivity, efficiency, and innovation. 10 years later, this year on LinkedIn, I saw in International Women's Day, Choose to Challenge was flooding the networking zone. You had every company, pushing their leadership, their employees coming up and taking pledge. I don't know about what they'll do in action, but at least the talk has started. They started coming and doing this hashtag Choose to Challenge, and they were challenging a lot of topics which were very uncomfortable to talk about, right? Then again, D&I labs. That's actually another thing that's going on. So in a way, what Bhavna said was D&I labs, so have all these, not just sensitizing sessions, have these labs where people can actually come and, go through with a coach to look at what kind of unconscious bias they probably suffer from, but they haven't been doing anything about it. But the company will not be looking at that as something which is wrong. They'll be just trying to give you another perspective, and then you go out and practice it, right? So D&I labs are a big thing, and all companies have been taking inspiration from these, and they're doing it in their way. They're tailor-making it as per their requirement. Focus on employees' unique abilities is another thing that a lot of companies are now taking care of. Like some tech companies are making sure that they're inviting people who can speak sign language in different languages. And they've opened up departments where there are assigned buddies who are going to take care of all people with any kind of disability. And they're opening it up in a way where they're mixing them up with the regular workforce in regular roles and trying to see how else can they be using such kind of talent. Some manufacturing companies are using blind talent because they have an extreme sense of touch. So, they can actually touch and check for paint, bodywork, is there any defect? Because that heightened sense is helping them identify a lot of defects that probably people with all senses cannot. There are people in data mining who are hiring people who are deaf, because people who are deaf can actually concentrate a lot more. So data mining is a field where they are excelling, right? So like this, the examples are many. I mean, it continues to go on. And I've been very lucky to work in some organizations where I've seen all these firsthand Wipro being a very big example, I've seen how, they have constantly pushed the culture of welcoming all kinds of sexuality or disability, and I've seen how people have constantly been pushing the leadership, and it has been a phenomenal thing to witness. However, I do see the stark difference in a lot of other companies where we are only talking about it, but we are not doing much about it, right? So let me not get into more examples because it could just go on and on. Let's talk about then what are the few things that we can do, right? Especially you as a student population, what can you do? Start questioning your unconscious bias is what I'll say. You've got people that I'm talking about all around you. Again, don't get stuck on just gender. I'm not telling you to pull a chair for a woman or open a door for a woman. All I'm saying is, have eye-to-eye conversations, match them up, with intellect, right? Don't undermine somebody because he or she belongs to, some other kind of, belonging. I don't want to get into, again, specifics. I'm sure you can understand what I'm trying to say, right? So let's stop thinking there isn't a problem. There is a problem. You may not have faced it, but a lot of people around you may have faced it. So, acknowledging or validating somebody else's problem is the first step to offering help, to being an ally, right? So let's start with that. Let's also push for, dialogues. Let's talk about uncomfortable things. It'll be uncomfortable. Let's debate, but let's not shun somebody because somebody does not see the same things that I do. Welcome that perspective too and see how you can, learn from each other. And finally, I think in an age where in current generation in 2021, the workforce looks like this. There are 6% baby boomers, there are 32% millennials, and 62% Generation X. And these three are completely different kind of generations and they're all working together. So why not do some reverse mentoring? And for that, I think other people will also have to be open. Mentoring should not always be from top to down. It can be from down to top also. And the more we include reverse mentoring, we are going to learn from each other and bridge generation gap. So with that, I'll come to an end because I would definitely leave more time for question and answer. Let's all pledge together to make every talent feel valued, accepted, and respected. With that, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And you brought about, a point that you push women for bigger roles. So can you share how you actually prepare before pushing them to take up that bigger role? Any structured program? How do you do it?
Absolutely. So this has been, again, a big initiative with GenPact because obviously digitization has become a real thing and then more technology jobs are coming up. And no matter how much we say that women are equal, they're not. Clearly, if you look at the demographics, more women are definitely not technically adept in terms of the kind of professional roles I'm talking about. So our CEO, Tiger Tyagarajan, one of the biggest initiatives that he took was be open to learn something new. So we opened up universities where you could actually, so you could be a person from HR wanting to go into operations, an operations person wanting to become an analyst. It could be anything. He gave you that whole open forum that go ahead, learn this, and tell us that you're ready, and we'll push you to a different role. So in fact, me too, I'm somebody who writes, as a hobby. And I've never really taken writing up seriously. But from L&D, suddenly I was pushed into branding and communication, and I was told, do the branding and communication for all of leadership, and I was completely thrown at the deep end. And today, that is my KRA. Right? So I think in GenPact, we've been doing this very successfully. So again, it's about the able and not label. It's not necessarily only women. We've been doing this for all talent, basically trying to say that every person is capable of doing something more, something that you've never tried. Just be brave, come forward and try it, and we'll give you a chance. So that's how we've been doing it.
Thank you. It's the time to bring in, the Make in India concept into DNI, rather than copying it and pasting it from US and European countries. We tend to do that, but he has very rightly said that whatever we look forward to other countries, probably we have much more than that which is available in our country. I think we all worship Durga and Lakshmi and Saraswati. So at the same time when we worship Ram and Krishna and Ganesha, so he has very rightly said, get into Indian stories, mythological stories of various Upanishads and Vedas and which other books he has mentioned, and we will get to know a lot more than we probably thought that the kind of abundance of knowledge is there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And now we will open it up for open session, any questions, and I'm not very sure how much time we have, the official time. We are 10 minutes behind schedule, but it's still. At least one or two
Do
questions.
we have any questions, please?
Lot of them actually.
Lots of them. So we are running a little short of time, so we can probably have two of them.
So request all of you to keep the question short and precise, and we would also try to keep our answers short and
I
precise.
request the others to please mail across. We are very, very happy to respond. Okay, our coordinates are there. Yes. Please go on.
Next question.
Hello. So, good afternoon, panel, and congratulations. We have more than 60% women population on the panel.
You should congratulate the management because when they gave the topic, that was the pre-work that they had to do.
We are already part of the management, so I'm an ex-alumni. So, it's always being a pleasure for that. So, you have given me 3 questions, and I do have 3 questions. Just one question, then that's the important one. We were talking about female empowering. We are a very small organization with 27 people. So we have incorporated 3 women employees in the organization. And one problem which I faced recently was the woman, the salary part was more than my colleague, which was on the same level. And in between a lunch or a break, they discussed it, ki what was your salary and what was your salary. So my the men part was older, was employed with us 2 years more than the woman part, and then he countered me ki मैं सारा same काम कर रहा हूँ and everything. Generally what happens in the reverse case कि woman is saying कि मैं सारा same काम कर रही हूँ and I'm being paid lower, and there was a fight, and the result was we have to lay off the men because getting women empowered in the organization was. So how to tackle that situation? We are talking about taking actions to that. This was a right situation which I faced a month back, and I was like, absurd, what to do? I lost an employee because of salary imparity between a male and a female, and the male countered me कि मैं उससे ज़्यादा काम करता हूँ, she is always sitting on the system and I'm doing other works also. It was like very disturbing what to and how to handle it. So this probably if you all can answer that.
All can answer.
Would you like to answer? Actually,
Yes, please.
anyone can take up this question, please.
So one take for you is on the culture and the mindsets. Probably if that's the situation which is arising where confidential things are being talked about openly, I would want you to revisit your culture where we emphasize on the policies and say there must be a decorum. At a personal level, there would be sharing which is done at this level. So as a solution, what I would suggest is all fingers are not equal. We are trying that when employee comes into the organization, they are all viewed equally, but they do come from different pedigree, different experience. So there has to be a counseling where both or just the person who's disgruntled, you sit with them and make them explain the background with which she would have come. And it's not, so the sensitization session where he feels that yes, because she's a female and she's getting and it has gone to his heart, that is only the sensitization with which it can go away. So a little maturity level of the organization where you get your managers together, train others as well, that there will be these differences and we have to endure them. So I think that a positive, a conducive environment can be created through that.
You would like to add something to it? So the only thing I would like to add is this kind of fight can happen between men and men also and women also. Because two people doing the same work in the same organization will never have the same salary. So X and X, it doesn't happen, you know, because when you hire a new person, the salary is decided basis so many other factors. So your internal grades, your internal salary levels, then your the factor of your internal parity, and then the person who is coming in, the kind of skill set that he is coming in or she is coming in, and the base salary that the person is coming in. So this fight can happen between anyone. So next question, please.
I have two short questions. One is addressed to Anurita, and I want to just compliment the panel. Very interesting insights from all of you. Thank you.
Yes,
Anurita, when you said celebration, we should celebrate diversity. Very fine. But when you say Mother's Day, or let's say Women and Workers' Day, it's done on a particular day in a year, but does it really translate into actual respect and inclusion, which is required? One. The second question I would like to address to Rajesh. Very fine, you're just talking about how much we have from our own traditions and heritage. But the moment when you talk about Indian management, including all these, it becomes a perspective of you're a right winger, you're saying this. It becomes very politically incorrect. How do we resolve this issue? Thank you.
May I respond to this first?
Yes, sure.
Because I'm going to have to leave in just a few moments from now. Ma'am, so since we said talk to action, I decided the same. So हमने already शुरुआत की है. You may have read in my profile, heard in my profile. Chiranjeev Gurukul focuses on building leadership for the world through integration of Indian wisdom and modern management. और हम इस तरीके से पढ़ाते हैं कि उसमें से आपको कभी नहीं लगेगा that this is related to Hindu or related to a particular faith. In fact, we demystify everything. क्योंकि भारत में वो कभी ऐसे बना ही नहीं था. It is our layers and layers of ignorance जिसके वजह से we believe कि अभी it belongs to a certain category. So since it was not made that way, we invite more and more people. And very happy to tell you, ma'am, we've had 5 batches of the foundation module. And we have had people from the youngest to the oldest, 25 to 75. We've had people from all faiths. We've had people from all walks of life. And you also heard that I also run a free Indian philosophy group. So I'm very happy to tell you, and by the way, ये जो practices है, हमने बहुत सारे companies में भी implement किए. So please reach out. I'm happy to tell you at least 5 cases. And I'm going to share with you, एक चीज बताऊंगा आपको, just for you to feel proud. That we've also been doing a few sessions for faculty from ISB to share Indian wisdom. And you will soon see a case study which will come out from ISB, which is based on how Indian wisdom was applied in an organization during a pandemic, and they saw success. So ma'am, we are getting there. और आपको बहुत सारे दिखाई देंगे.
I want to make a point because I know Rajesh a little better than probably everybody around here. Lest he not be misunderstood. What Rajesh is talking about is the power of the and. It's not either or, it's not
Yes.
Western versus Eastern.
Yes.
The reality is that the power of the and is pluralism. I think the whole context is pluralism, inclusion and diversity. It's
Absolutely.
pluralism, in fact, and it's in Vedantic traditions of, say, Swami Vivekananda. He said that divinity within and unity without. So outside. So that is pluralism, and there are a lot of studies in Indian Vedanta which say that, there is diversity is one thing, but infinite paths to infinite gods. Or infinite God. Since God is infinite, and therefore there is infinite wisdom and infinite paths are there. So this understanding of
Thank you so
pluralism
much.
is what is the overarching principle of DEI. It's not a Western or an Eastern concept.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for elaborating.
And I think together these make more sense. So pluralism is something that we should honor. So it's like, let's not get into the tangles of language. The point what Rajesh made was that It's the power of the and let's all use the power of the and that's important.
Thank you.
I'm going to regret I need to leave, my dear friends, speaking to students elsewhere, and I've promised to get there on time. Yeah, thanks so much. Please be in touch.
I just want
Sir,
to.
excuse me,
thank
sir. Sir, just one more minute. Sir,
I
just
want to
one
address the
more
students
minute.
here immediately. Sorry. What Madhura said, that let the students begin with questioning and creating awareness. I would like our students, IMM students, to begin this process. It's very critical. So you understand the concept of diversity and inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. I extend a hearty thanks to our panelists for their valuable insights on the topic. I'm very sure with such industry leaders, the corporate world is going to be taking diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives as the new corporate agenda. I may now request Dr. C.V. Ramanan, Director IMM, and Professor Smita Lal, Dean IMM, to please come to the dais and felicitate our panelists.
I'm so sorry for making this happen, but I had requested Smita ji earlier. You did a wonderful job. I would love to. Dhanyawad.
I'm comfortable. I don't want to disrupt the system. Yeah. I think we can close it now. It will look very odd for me to start answering.
Bye, everyone.
Actually, better we also come down there.
Wonderful job. Thank you. All of you were amazing.
Ma'am?
Come.
You come.
I was just looking here at
हम यहीं आने वाले थे.
Sir, please come.
we come down below, so we have the photographs. Yes, please. And then we can have come down.